Okay, without further ado, we have a fantastic panel to get started with. I'm going to turn it over to your moderator, Erica Duran.
Good morning. How is everybody? Yeah! Okay. Whether you like AI or you don't like AI, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. I use it, and I'm going to say right now, I know it will take over the world. It is going to kill all of us, and I'm going to use it in the meantime. So I hope you learn a lot today. I am moderating this morning's panel, and we have some awesome folks here from our community. For those of you who don't know me, I teach English in our adult high school in continuing education, and I'm a big AI user. So I'm going to be presenting later today, but this morning it is my job to introduce some other really awesome experts. So before we get into questions, I'm going to go down the line, if that's okay, and you just introduce yourself. Where are you from, and why are you telling us about AI today? What's your role in that?
Okay. Let's first make sure that this works. Good morning, everyone. I am Susie Boynton. I'm actually an executive assistant to superintendent and board at San Marcos Unified School District. And I started my journey with AI in 2023. And I'd say, I just wanted to start the conversation then. And then they said, that's great. Keep doing it. And so I started speaking at local conferences for CASBO, California Organization of School Business Officials, and have progressed my love for AI over the last year and a half. So that's why I'm here today, to share that with you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paul McLaughlin. I'm a partner with the law firm of Atkinson, Andelson, Lawyer, Root, and Romo. I know it's a mouthful. Just call me Paul. That's all you need to remember. I am actually the chair of our technology practice committee within our education law practice group. So we represent K-12s and community college districts throughout the state of California. I kind of first got introduced to AI in 2022 when one of our partners who has a copyrighted document manual, we showed him ChatGPT and asked him to write a document in that form and spit it out and said, we really need to learn more about this. Since then, clients have come to us. We've been fielding lots of questions. I speak at many different statewide conferences on this particular topic, usually on the wet blanket subjects, like all the legalities and the no-nos and bad things that we see. And lastly, I'm a proud product of the community college district, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Hola, I am Fabiola Torres. I first want to say that my campus crush has always been MiraCosta. So just want to make that clear. So I'm getting, I'm blushing. First and foremost, I am a professor of ethnic studies at Glendale Community College. I am also a product of the community college. I am from LA Valley College, or I went to LA Valley College, born and raised Angelina. Go Dodgers. They're repeating the NLC today. Anyway. Okay, so I've always, by nature in ethnic studies, our goal is to be disruptors, to challenge the master narrative. And so whether it's online education, whether it's iPads, whether it's mobile devices, whether it's different modalities of instruction or just different tools and trends, I'm always going to find ways to enable students to succeed, to give them the strategies to challenge the master narrative, to be successful, to be subversive. So I am coming to you from a subversive voice that is innovative and just grew up wanting to be Princess Leia. Or General Organa.
Thank you. All right, so just some housekeeping. I've got two multi-part questions, and there's three of them. and we're going to get out of here by right about 10 is what I'm aiming for, but we'll see. So the reason I say that is I'm going to try and leave room for Q&A at the end. So if you're hearing something as you're listening that is really interesting to you, please take a note on your phone so that you can remember it at the end. Also, I'm going to be reading from my phone because I don't have any 3x5 cards at home, apparently. We used them for multiplication flashcards with my children. So pardon my use of my iPhone. All right, for your first question. We are dealing with defining AI in higher education. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. So as a bit of a kickoff to today's topic, and because those joining us today work in a variety of roles at the college, can you briefly explain some ways you've seen AI being used across different areas in community colleges, including teaching, professional service, student services, and administration? Whatever your particular roles have been, how have you seen it being used? And how about we just go in reverse? So we'll start with Fabiola this time.
Well, first and foremost, I think for teaching, how many of us have had those really, well, it could be since yesterday. We've had just those really bad days because, external forces are getting in the way of our minds and our hearts, and we have just nothing left of creativity. And we want to come to our classroom full of love and energy for our students. I use love a lot because I believe teaching is a profession of love. So, and if you know me, it's all about corazón. So as AI began, I realized that myself, with my own learning disability, I was able to, I'm going to say it, rely on it to help me come up with a creative idea to get my students, excited about the reading. And I'm going to be like, okay, I know some students didn't do the reading, but I need some form of a formative assessment that can cause, an engaging discussion. I'm going to upload the PDF right now, and I just need you to generate 5 questions that could bring in some culturally relevant discussion into the conversation. And I can just go on and on and on because, my sisters with late ADHD and menopause, you know what I'm talking about. And I can go and freely speak, and it would generate and help me. And then I can come to the classroom and be like, I'm prepared. And then go forward and do this exercise with them and see the outcome and make me feel like, oh, yes, I can still do this even though the world is falling apart around me. So that's how I've seen it on the instructional side. And then that's how I started sharing with my colleagues and those professors that I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired, Fabiola, what am I going to do? Let me show you something. And so those of us who have been using it for a while, we know that in the beginning it was that, let me show you something. Don't tell anybody. Of course, now it's like, oh, let me show you my prompt. But that's how I saw it become part of our teaching practice.
I'm going to pretend to be a human emoji right now, and that was a 100. Go for it, Paul.
I hope I live up to that. And I'm going to kind of steal from Fabiola. Just in the kind of the more boring sense, I appreciate the passion. I've seen it as a time saver, like 100% just across all fields. I primarily work with administration, human resources, services, and we're all overtaxed, we're all overburdened. I myself use it for the same thing. I was talking to Susie before. It's something where if I'm just burnt out, I need 10 ideas. I'll put into AI, give me 10 ideas for this particular topic. 7 or 8 of them might be terrible, but there are 2 or 3 useful ones that are at least a starting point. So from a positive perspective, I've just seen it as a tremendous time saver. Anyone who will listen, I will encourage you to just play around with it. Think of something that takes a big portion of your day that you don't like doing, put it into that, and see how much time you are saved. So in higher education, that really cuts across all fields. We're all very busy people. In higher education, you're doing a million things all at once, especially my adjunct who are doing a million things between many different campuses. same perspective from just a student work perspective. We have seen a lot of the creative benefits from it. We've seen some downsides already, of course, with plagiarism issues, student cheating, those sorts of complications. However, it has been really a benefit to our students as well. And it's been nice to see them get creative starts, creative prompts. It's started a lot of creative conversation. So from the perspective of really, time saving and idea generating, it's not a replacement in my mind. It's been really a tool. And I've tried to think about AI as a tool and try not to go to that perspective that they're replacing all of us. Like, we're all going to be out of jobs. We're just going to be sitting on the spaceship like in WALL-E, just doing nothing, watching our screens. So kind of got meandering off topic, but really, primarily, those are the two things that I've seen really a benefit to in higher education so far.
Thank you. Emoji fist pump.
I love the emoji bit. I'm just wondering which one I get.
I got to keep you guessing.
So I have more of a classified perspective and a business lens on this, and I see huge efficiency opportunities for at all districts. I initially remember trying a calendaring app, an AI calendaring app, and it saving me probably about 5 minutes for that one task. And being an accounting nerd, I was like, oh my gosh, I went back and I said, I need to put this in a spreadsheet one, and I need to multiply this across my organization. I do that task 100 times a day, and I just saved myself 5 minutes. What does that mean for my organization when I multiply that by 3,000 employees? What did that do for my organization? It saved us roughly 250 hours. And so that led me to think, okay, so if we do that collectively, what kind of change can we make in our organization with all that free time? What do we want to do? What are the things that we haven't been able to do with our time because we've been so bogged with mundane tasks, with things that it's fine if they're automated. We can let go of that. And maybe we are moving into getting to hone those like soft skills and those like skills that AI doesn't have, right? The human touch, those sort of things. So I see the tremendous room for growth and efficiency in the operations of school districts.
Thank you. Emoji celebration. So I'm hearing a theme here about it's saving us some time, gathering our thoughts that also could be time consuming. It's preparing us to go do the much more important things, the heavier things, the things we were really hopefully getting into work to do and help people. And so we're going to shift a little bit to a topic that's come up a lot in education as a result of AI, and that's ethics and equity. So Joy Buolam, I know I'm going to mess up the name, I keep saying it, Buolawini, forgive me, writes in Unmasking AI that the fight for civil rights and human rights will require algorithmic justice, which means that the creators of AI reflect their societies, that data does not destine you to unjust discrimination, that your hue is not a cue to dismiss your humanity. So here's your question. Knowing that we have inherent injustice in our data and programming, how can community colleges ensure that AI technologies are implemented in ways that protect and benefit rather than exploit our historically marginalized communities? And so we'll go in reverse again.
Okay, I see that obviously there's going to be equity gaps, right? So you're going to have equity gaps with students, and you're going to have equity gaps with staff, right? So some staff might have the ability to use AI platforms before other staff do. So just having that awareness first, and then also as an institution, having that awareness ahead of time for your students. So yeah, I'm blanking right now, but basically what I would encourage is a loop. So having a framework for being able to report biases and report report these these gaps that are out there, and particularly utilizing students in the conversation too. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. No, it's a big question.
Yeah, it is. It's a very big question.
Paul.
Yeah, it's a humongous question, especially in light of the last couple of weeks and the general attacks on those viewpoints and the value in that. So this is something that we just, as attorneys, we think about a lot because we're, of course, starting to see the negative ramifications from a legal perspective. The law is always slow to catch up. So we're this year starting to see some of these major issues concerning things like algorithmic bias, algorithmic discrimination, which are these scary, weird sci-fi terms that are actually starting to pop up in case law. I think the primary way to address those sorts of issues is to be cognizant of the technology and some of the issues associated with it and putting the human touch and interaction on the back half of it. So, for example, there are both unintentional and intentional issues involving algorithmic bias and discrimination. For example, studies have shown that with student plagiarism software that purports to catch these sorts of issues, there is a bias towards English as a second language students because it picks up on syntax, it picks up on certain things that have demonstrated that it unfairly targets those students. There are also intentional bad actors out there. If you look at Google's AI system, if you're just Googling, enough people have enough time in their day to actually train AI, and we've seen this, to spit out issues involving overt racism, discriminatory ideals and viewpoints as the top featured result. So if we're looking at it with a discerning eye and really being cognizant that these sorts of issues are out there and we're putting a human question on the back end of it, like, is what I'm seeing truly what should be believed? I know that sounds a little Mickey Mouse-ish, but it actually catches things where we need to be looking with a very discerning eye. Similarly, things like AI-generated images. I'm seeing a lot with people in my parents' generation taking at face value what's going on social media. Deep fakes. We're seeing horrible things with deep fakes and voice-generated, art-generated. So it's training our people to be discerning, not to take this technology at face value. It's an amazing technology, but just to at least put the human interaction, human touch on the back half of it.
Thank you.
So, coming from an ethnic studies perspective, I'm going to say that education itself is already unethical in so many ways. So, we're already, as a discipline, we are already challenging the ethics of just humanity, with or without AI. But when I look at how we can enable our students to go from a passive consumer to a co-creator with AI. I mean, that's a skill set. That's an upskill that could enable our students to take to their dream job, their dream career, and leverage themselves. I always say to my students, we need to build our alas, our wings. Let's build our wings. Let's not get lost in the wind. And so you said the concept discerning eye. That is extremely important. How do we enable discernment? For example, I said earlier that, I'll ask AI to give me 5 ideas, and you also said, give me 10 ideas. And then you also shared about the calendar. But at the end of the day, are we going to be building the critical thinking skills to enable the student and ourselves? What is the better output? You said there's 10, 7 of them don't work, but 3 will. Why does those 3 fit? If I asked for 5 generated ideas, why am I going to pick the one that I believe is going to uplift my students? That still matters. That human side still matters. So there needs to be a strong connection to the work that we do, to the human that we are. How are we representing ourselves? And how are we enabling our students to become co-creators so that they can see through these biases? Later on today, I'll be doing a workshop on a tool called PlayLab which is a tool that's been supported by the Chancellor's Office, and it's us and students building chatbots. They're the ones putting in the information to a FERPA compliant tool that enables the chatbot to do an output according to how they want to. And so I always talk about the heart under, the bot, or inside the bot. Where is that heart, and how can we enable our students to build the heart, to build their heart into AI, so that they become the creators versus the passive consumer. So when we talk about ethics, I'm, again, coming from that perspective that we are already facing unethical human attacks to the humanity of our students. How can I provide, or how can we provide the tools to enable their success, and again, even cause, real change and action?
Thank you. As you're all responding to this, it's making me think about skills we've been teaching in education this entire time. This is just a new tool, right? So you're talking about self-awareness. I have a gap. I don't know what AI does. I'm not necessarily accessing it all the time, but my coworkers are, right? You're talking about this perhaps gap in ability to understand or comprehension, like a reading comprehension or a visual comprehension or a digital literacy gap, right? And you're talking about agency. And as we're thinking about and critical thinking, again, these are all skills we teach, right? So as we're thinking about AI and the future of this, which is our next couple of questions, we're really not going into uncharted territory. It's a new tool. I'm going to go old school here and say, how scared was everybody of calculators? No one will know how to use calculators. I found something, it was about a month ago, and it was an old note where English teachers were very upset that students could no longer correctly write on slate with their chalk because, they were now switching to pencils. It was very scary. So we've been here before, but all these things that you're talking about, we do this every single time we have the new tool, right? So let's talk about the future a little bit. This is a two-part question, so I'm just going to ask it one at a time, or else we're going to have a lot happening. All right. This is about the future of AI. How do you envision AI shaping community colleges over the next 5 to 10 years in areas like pedagogy, administration, and student success? And Fabiola, we'll begin with you this time.
Well, pedagogy, I'll address pedagogy. We've been, talking about, being replaced. And I'm going to say something scary and radical, but, hey, do you know me? Yet exciting. In any job, any market, if you are replaceable, you will be. So how do we become irreplaceable are the question we have to ask ourselves as teachers. We are in the industry of learning. That is what we do. We get paid to put together a curriculum, send it to students, and hope that our message gets to them. Simply said. Of course, we could argue there's a lot more, and yes, there's so much more. But it is getting better. AI is getting better. AI is getting scarier. Okay? AI is getting cheaper, as we all know, with DeepSeek. Okay? So, yes, it's here. But how are we going to continue to leverage adaptability, critical thinking, creativity? How are we as teachers? How is our pedagogy? How is our action in our delivery of our instruction, in our ability to design assessments, to measure learning, to create student engagement? How are we going to adapt? How are we going to be creative? How are we going to ensure that we are doing the job that we were called to do. And so that's what's going to keep us irreplaceable. Okay? And that goes with, like, are you the cool teacher or not cool teacher? As we know, enrollment is going to be more and more problematic. Okay? So how do we maintain a classroom that is engaging, that enables students to feel that they could find their voice, they can leverage their voice, they can build their alas, they can build their wings? How can we still keep doing that while coexisting with AI? Coexisting with AI. Okay? That's pedagogically so.
Right. Yeah, and just kind of along similar lines, just thinking about how this is going to be integrated. I do agree with you. I don't think that this is a replacement, and I've already said it, so I apologize for saying it again, but we need to think about AI as a tool. I know when this kind of first entered our mindset, I think it was the dean of the Wharton Business School at UPenn said, this technology is here to stay. Let's learn how to work with it. Let's not learn how to fight it or try to resist it. Kind of to your point about calculators and slates. I mean, it's always been like that. This was back in 2021. I think he said something along those lines. And I think higher education is well equipped to be riding that wave ahead of the curve. And we're already thinking about how best to utilize it. I'll take the boring administrative part. From an administration perspective and how I'm using it with my clients and how we're looking at how we can effectively use artificial intelligence, we're looking at things at an institutional level about trends in our data. And AI is actually really great at breaking down and using things like predictive and prescriptive analytics to help student success. We've all been given that marching order from the chancellor's office about pass rate and how are we ensuring that students are going down the right path? How are we setting them up for success in the career field or at four-year college? Really, that can be a tremendous tool, just breaking down and collecting and analyzing humongous amounts of data. We've already started to see it at some colleges and universities across the country. If you Google Georgia Southern University, they started using predictive analytics coupled with AI to determine student success rate in their pre-med program. And they were starting to look at students and where are students failing? Where is the critical juncture that we need to jump in and have a student keep on the pre-med route versus maybe we push them into nursing or some other science? And they have seen success. Now, there's also criticisms about it. There's ethical issues because there were studies that showed that, well, these can break down amongst students of color. So there's all these ethical considerations that we need to take into what we're doing with this technology as well. However, that sort of use of technology at an institutional level can really help student success. It can help faculty success. It really builds things on not just an individual level, but looking at things from a holistic viewpoint. So we've already seen that successfully used, at least the seeds of it. So I do see in the future, as especially distance education continues to proliferate, how we're going to be able to use AI to help student success, how to reach more students, and how to guarantee that they're being put in a place to succeed.
Yes, and to tag along to that, I would say that AI literacy, I think we're hearing that term consistently, but to build that AI literacy ourselves so that we can create future-ready students first, right? So we need to be AI literate in our workforce and as teachers, right? So we have the foundation so that we can pass that along to our students. And giving that education to both staff and to students helps set them up for success. So.
I just want to, everything that you've just said makes me also think we need to always remember AI is not only being encountered in schools, right? Like we have them for a moment and then they go out into the world and they're encountering it everywhere else. This is a real world skill. This is a real world tool that half the time I would say now, because it's so ubiquitous, they can't avoid. Phones, laptops, browsers, you name it, it's just built in. And we will get to a point, I think, where if we're not developing the self-awareness in this agency that you're all talking about, they're going to begin using it without even really recognizing that they're using it. And they'll become so passive in that absorption because they haven't had that AI literacy. And that is incumbent upon us to help them understand that out in the real world, not just in our classrooms. All right, our second and last question as this ends, and when we get done with this set of answers, I want you to be thinking about questions you might have for the panel. What key principles, frameworks, or questions should guide institutions as they navigate this transformation? And what steps can they take now to prepare for AI's growing role in higher education? We're going in reverse again, so you're up first.
Yeah, I always come back to that self-awareness piece, but just thinking about how fast the technology came and understanding that we're all at various levels of understanding with AI. And then just implementation-wise, and sorry, I'm not as eloquently spoken as the team up here, but just taking time ourselves to understand that this technology came so fast at us that even the institutions are struggling to keep up, right? So I need to have that same expectation of myself, right? Like, okay, it came fast, and I feel like I jumped on board really early, but there's so much to learn, and I think if we take our time with it and we, have that human-centered approach, that's going to lead us to success. And also make sure that we're asking for the opportunity to get educated, to have the skill set to be able to do our jobs and to be able to, flow with that, with the way society is going with AI.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think, Susie, you said something that kind of triggered something in me, is that the technology is moving so fast that it's like trying to take a drink from a fire hose. We're not going to be able to do it. Just straight up, we're not going to be able to do everything, use every system, use every product that's out there. So the way that we've been looking at it from kind of a policy perspective and how we're going to be safely implementing this technology and how we're going to be doing it responsibly is telling, and we had this conversation, actually, a colleague of mine and I with Cornell last week, saw him earlier today. You can use your existing frameworks and start there and use that to shape what you're doing and how you're using the technology. Things like your acceptable use policies, your student policies with their code of conduct, any institutional administrative procedures, board policies that you have, and see how those already fit into the framework of how we responsibly and ethically look at artificial intelligence. And then get buy-in from our various community groups on campus, our faculty, our staff, our students. What are you seeing? What are the important trends to you? Then taking those existing policies and working up from there in order of importance. I think that this is something that all of us are using, all the groups on campus, and getting as much buy-in and perspective from all of those groups will really set out what's most important on each campus. We're all unique, and how we best go quickly addressing those issues within our existing framework. So that's just one thing that we've used with a lot of clients to say, don't think of it about this as something brand new. Think of this as new technology. Think about when email became a thing. We all adapted well. We all had existing things in place, and things that we didn't have, we were able to put in place. So just 2 cents on things that looking at things from a policy perspective.
To also continue with the policy, Jim, help me out with this. What do you call that? Is it a paperwork? It's something Scott James would always talk about. The VPAT. It's called a VPAT. Basically what that is that when you adopt a tool, we have to really look at how the tool is going to protect our students and ourselves and our data. HECFAT. Okay, HECFAT. So, Jim, how are we going to make sure that our students, our environments are protected? That's what we need to ask, okay? Because there's a lot of shiny tools out there. I mean, even with DeepSeek, there's already workarounds on how to make your identity not from where you are at. I mean, I've started with Facebook from Antarctica, and I'm a hermaphrodite. That's how I identified. I made it up. I mean, hey, I'm from Antarctica. I actually have an address in Antarctica. Okay. So also, how this is something completely, there's two things I want to say. Number one, I also think that how are we going to educate ourselves and our students about the environmental impacts that AI is producing? Something I share with my students as to why they have to be better with AI. Per every inquiry, a water bottle is used to cool the system for every inquiry. So if you're going in there for 2 hours and you're just going blah, 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 just think of water being poured out. Okay? So how do we offset our own carbon footprint in other areas in our lives to make us feel like, because this is something I do. I do an inquiry and I'm like, oh man, I really have to make sure I ride my bike tomorrow. This is just me. That's the quirkiness of me. It's like, I'm going to ride my bike tomorrow. Like I took the train today. I didn't drive. But it's just, this is a lifestyle change that all of us, and understanding the environmental impact is so important for us to know, and for our institutions to also ask ourselves, how are we going to deal with the environmental impact, and how do we offset our own footprint? Number two, we talked about the efficiency and the productivity of AI, okay? And we also talked about the human side. So one of the things, and where's your joyful faculty and residents? Is he still? He's roaming around. Oh, okay. One of the reasons why I have a crush on your campus. Okay. How are we going to educate ourselves, empower ourselves and our students in our institution to not fall into this productive state where we do become robotic? Okay? We're saying, oh, I can do a lot more now because of AI. How are we going to schedule in time for joy? I like the fact that I can get through my queue of feedback faster. And I need to learn how to put away the phone, put away the devices, and just paint. I watercolor. I doodle. Okay? How are we going to pick up a book? Those of us who are like, I still love books. Yes, so do I. Okay? When we talk about productivity, let us not forget our own humanity. That if we do have that spare time, because the calendar has it all set, and I don't have to spend that much time reading over this document, do we have time to love our loved ones? Do we have time to even check in on our own mental health? To deal with the chronic pain that we have? To build community? Because the wonders of AI. Wow. Okay. So this is how I'm speaking about this in a completely tech way. But it's still, we need to remember that there is an environmental impact. The more time we spend on it, the more water is used, if we can see it that way. Okay, so we got to get better at it so we can just bloop, use it once. Okay, that's one bottle. Okay, how am I supposed to make sure I take a shorter shower? Okay, and again, let us not forget our joy, our humanity. If there's time, if I finish by 6 p.m., oh my God, I could watch Ted Lasso for the 4th time. So, I could paint.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. That makes me think of my naps. Since I started using AI, I nap every day. Sometimes I nap for 2 or 3 hours. My kids come in and say, is it mommy nap time? And I'm like, yeah, it is. It's mommy nap time because I got a lot of work done today. So paint. What I'm hearing all of you say, though, is intentionality. Everything is connected back to intentionality. And what is the culture of the campus? What is the culture of your classroom? What are the values that we already have? We're applying all of that with intentionality to this new tool, right? All right, it is time for Q&A. We do have a few minutes. We have some folks who are going to be floating around with microphones. Is there anybody who would like to pose a question to the panel at all? Way at the back, of course. Is that you, Charlie? I can't see past all the lights. We have folks live streaming, so
Good
that's
morning.
why we got the microphone.
Good morning. Thank you for being here today. My question is, based on my experience, I have used AI from stuff I know nothing about to stuff I have a lot of working knowledge about. And when I use it for working knowledge, when I have working knowledge of the topic that I'm using it for, I feel like I'm less susceptible to hallucinations and incorrect information, and because I already have some knowledge of it. And then when I use it for something I know nothing about, then I feel like I'm more vulnerable because I don't know. I don't have that discerning eye, so to speak. I don't know that. And so can you talk about that idea and strategies that you might use to sort of minimize your risk of hallucinations or misinformation? Because I've caught errors, in part because there's really not a lot of information it's gleaning from to be able to give you an accurate answer, or it's just pulling from bad data. And I'm like, this is absolutely wrong, and I could prove it. And then I found out that I was right, it was wrong. So, but then if I'm doing something I have no clue about, I'm not gonna really know that. So just any ideas that you all might, and how we might use that for either our own employees or for our student success, like kind of keeping that in mind.
Who wants to field that one?
Well, that sounds like a great exercise in the classroom, which I think a lot of faculty are starting to do, where they encourage the student to, knock yourself out, chat GPT it, Claude it, Gemini it, just use a large language model and then check it. Okay, that's one way some people are doing it. But I think one of the best opportunities that we have as instructors is that when we catch the student putting information that's not related to the class, and you can see it, like, okay, we didn't even talk about this, and that's in your answer. That is the best opportunity to have that conversation with your student on how dangerous it is. And you approach it with lots of love and lots of compassion, because here's the thing. Education has become very transactional. I got to check off this box, so I have to take your class. I don't want to, I have to. Which counselors, we need to change that. We need to say we get to take the class, not you have to take this class. Because how many times have we had those emails from our students? I have to get an A in this class. I have to take this class. Add me because I have to take it. So it becomes a transactional relationship. And they're going to do, and this is human. If we don't really have investment in something, we're going to cut corners, right? And so again, that whole thing with love, how do we create an environment in our classroom in which there is buy-in, or there is that intention to want to take the class, to realize that this is just a step in their journey. So that transactional, that's a big hurdle to go through ourselves even. When there is not investment in the outcome, we're going to take shortcuts. And that also applies to our students and ourselves. Okay? We have faculty that take, online PD. And guess what I'm finding? And I'm like, okay, you do know that when you copy and paste, there's a gray, hue behind the words, It's the same thing. Why? Because it's the transaction. I need to take this to get my stipend. Okay, so that's a hard battle to deal with. And you're absolutely right. When we're knowledgeable about something, we're going to be able to catch it. And so concentrating on our own practice and sharing with our students that we still need to learn to learn. We still need to love to learn, because we're going to be the best AI detectors of hallucination, not the software. Because if you do that and you pay your extra $10 to make sure this is not detectable, first of all, you're off $10, and second of all, it's going to be detected anyway. So, especially if it's really bad. And I'm sure all of us have had that, right, already with our classes, and you're like, oh. But we need to shift that conversation and see it as a perfect opportunity. This is a perfect opportunity to be like, yo, hey, we didn't even cover the Reagan era, and you're citing it. Can you share with me how that came to be? Oh, I'm sorry. And usually it's like, I did. I'm like, it's all good, It's a boring topic. Let's figure out how we can do this? You know? But that transactional part, oh, that's the biggest battle we have. And this is where counselors, when we talk about how we're starting to get, we're starting to streamline pathways by using AI, we should be celebrating that because that's the transactional side. We can sit with students now and talk about like, hey, what strategy are you using for time management? Or what is your, what is your what? What is your why? We could have those great conversations with them versus like, well, you have to take 12 units of this, 9 units of this, and, 6 units of that. There's that transaction. And you're only going to take it because you have to, not because you want to or get to.
Thank you.
I hope that
Fabio.
answers your question.
I'd like to say to all of our counseling faculty out there that we love you. It makes me think about Wikipedia. Do we remember the days when we would say, don't use Wikipedia? Wikipedia is the devil, right? And Wikipedia was often wrong. We had good reasons for saying that. It was really inaccurate. And now, a lot of us start with Wikipedia. It's much better. In many ways, Charlie, AI, for some topics, a lot of topics, is still sort of in that stage. This goes back to information literacy. Right? It would be the same if they found an article off of Google and it was terrible, right? And they brought it to us, and we see this all the time when our students give us sources that are really terrible. And we know it because we're the experts in it. We say, I'm sorry, you can't use this because it's just wrong, right? And it's the same skill set. So it's going to continue to happen. I hope that it gets better, but I'm not going to lie, it's going to always be a problem. That's where it's incumbent upon us as educators to have that continued information literacy that they have to or get to take, however we want to look at it. I think we have time for one more question. Anybody have a deep down in your soul question? You got it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the great panel and discussion. So as a first-generation Latina and current doctoral student, I think I really appreciated hearing how AI is here, and we just have to know how to work with AI. But I guess my question is, being a first-generation Latina, when I hear AI, questions to me come up like, am I cheating, right? Like, am I not smart enough? Like, should I know? Like, should I be asking this or utilizing this tool? Because we have not embraced it and really told all students that it is okay and that this is a tool to help us and guide us to be successful in our higher education journey. So what are strategies that faculty can implement to support students of color and first-generation students in embracing AI as a valuable academic tool while alleviating any feelings of guilt or apprehension they may have about its use in their educational journey?
Paul, do you want to field this for a minute from a legal standpoint, and then maybe Fabiola from a teaching standpoint?
Sure. So if I understand your question correctly, it's just, I think, boiled down in a nutshell, how do we support and almost normalize this technology to make students feel supported to use it? I think it's just really that, just emphasizing that, look, AI is okay to use and being very clear about that, because I think that so many times from what we hear is that there's this absolute, no, you shall not use it. We all need to normalize it because we all use it daily. And I think explaining that, Google is AI. Me personally as an attorney, like, this will come out, like all of your attorneys do the same thing. The first step we do is Google. And then we check secondary sources, and we use that as a jumping off point. And to make it normalized and to emphasize that this is something everyone uses, this is something that's you're expected to use in the job force. When you get to that point, you're expected to use this as a tool to be more efficient. I think as long as we have these conversations that we're not making it the boogeyman, that everyone will feel supported using that tool and understanding that it's ubiquitous. I forget who said up here, but everything on our phone is AI generated, and just to really emphasize how much of our world is powered by that, and that this is not something that you're not allowed to use, and to really foster and encourage the use of the technology. So, I know in your coursework that's something that you literally emphasize and use. This is a tool for all of us to use. And I think as long as we push and emphasize that that is something that is normal for all of us to use, the better that message will come across. And it's not something where you're going to be dinged for plagiarism. It's not something that you're going to be violating student ethical rules as long as you're not copying and pasting whatever came out of the prompt. If you're using it as a jumping off point, that's still okay. I think as long as we're emphasizing the safety of that tool, that can help encourage all students.
Fabiola, in 1 minute, can you think about as you're saying that, I'm thinking literally on the ground how different faculty are approaching these policies in their classrooms. Yeah. So can you speak to that a bit?
Yeah, well, institutionally, there's got to be the culture of support, institutionally. And that requires all of us, okay? So that when the student should feel safe to use it as it's directed. I use PlayLab because I want to shift that fear. I want to be able to say, you know what, don't use chat. Because I've had a student who physically was doing this in class. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, can they see me? Okay? And it really hurt me when she said that because that's how scared she is. Because I was telling them, let's have fun with AI. And she was like, okay, are they going to, is Glendale following my phone? Okay? So this is why I was attracted to PlayLab. Because I'm going to be like, you know what? I built it. You know who gets to see your query? Me. And usually I don't. Okay? Usually it's anonymous. Queries are anonymous. So if I want to see what students are asking so that I could better service, like what's the question that still is being asked, I can see it. So I tell them, don't use Aztec, which is my chat bot. Use Aztec. Don't worry about anything else. Use the one I built for you. Okay? But institutionally, we need to also have, I hate using this word, but like that safe space where I tell my students, if you feel that you have been wrongly accused, talk to me. I will help you. We're going to work this out. Okay, I'm going to give you the strategy. And last but not least, I also want to emphasize this whole idea of like the job force and the efficiency and so on and so forth. I flip the script and say, let's be more efficient with our free time. So let me show you some tricks so you can enjoy your time with your family.
Thank you. I love that.
I would say more, but we have a minute. Sorry.
And you did wonderfully. Susie.
I was just going to add it sounds like you're trying to foster a relationship of trust with your students too. So just coming from being a student here on this very campus myself, I think you're saying that you want to have that conversation with your teacher before it's assumed that you've plagiarized, right? And so just making sure that our staff are communicated to, that we can build this relationship of trust with our students to use that tool.
Thank you so much for everybody. Can we get a round of applause for the panel?
And thank you, Erica. We appreciate your moderation. Thank you. So today is starting off big ideas, right? Ethics, time, value, a little bit of threat, lots of centering of our work in equity. So we're really going to keep those kind of big conversations open, even as we start to drill down into tools in the afternoon breakout sessions as well. So thank you so much. So a couple quick kind of housekeeping things. Classified professionals, you're going to hang out in here for a moderated panel. Jim, do you want to share what rooms you're in? There we go. Oh, perfect. So the work that we do, for the work that we do, everybody has a different lens that they're looking at AI through. Whether it's a pedagogical lens, a kind of a work efficiency lens, a policy lens, and so a lot of those conversations happen in constituency groups. Our classified professionals will stay here. You can see on the screen here, and if you are on the live stream, you can check on the website, the rooms, as well as the Zoom link if you want to attend the faculty breakout groups that Fabi will be leading. Administrators are going to head over to Aslan for an interesting conversation. And then we're going to come back here for lunch. So not in here, but it'll be out where the breakfast was. Again, just a reminder for folks, the QR codes are your friend. They're not weird and scary. Please make sure you sign in for the events that you're participating in. And I just want to say, one of our panelists mentioned this idea of time. And I hope what we all see today is that as a college, we're coming together in community to give this topic time. And time is valuable. Everybody who's in here is getting, paid to be here. It's an investment in the work that we do to come together and think about how we want to grow and learn professionally. I'm grateful to be at MiraCosta because there's not a lot of colleges that would do something like this. So I hope you're going to step into that day with a lot of grace and appreciation, because even though AI is sometimes terrifying, we want to learn and grow together as a college. So thank you for everything, and off to your constituency groups.
This is constituent breakouts. Classified faculty.
We got plenty of water.
Which one is which?
I have copies for everybody.
Right.
I know Michelle said that she contacted you all to see which questions were most important.
Bye. Good to see you.
And then Michelle, this is Jennifer. Nice to meet you.
The topics that we know here.
Yep, he was in the back. Might have been in the booth. Yeah. So basically they're doing. Yeah. And then whatever seat was, I brought some
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay.
just in case.
Oh, you're welcome. Have a good day.
Check.
I'm helping, but I may not know everything.
Okay, so it will be on in a moment.
Oh.
Let's see how many mics we need.
Yeah. Yes. Unless they're like the associate faculty office, but I don't know who else is in there. Right? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Oh, no.
My hands are
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. That's fine. I think one is plenty because it looks like we've got. So just pretend.
Yeah, you said that here? Okay, four could be. Three, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 2 and 2. We're going to scoot the tables together. Do you have any perspective or anything? It is similarly
Better for the screen. Give it 3 more minutes, so it's half. Yeah. I know a bunch from classified. Yeah. Exactly. So I think all the different
started? Okay. Okay. Am I on now? Okay. Okay. Welcome, classified professionals, to our AI panel. I'm very excited to be here. First, I'm going to introduce myself, have a little bit of housekeeping to mention, and then I have a couple things I want to share before we meet our panel. I'm Michelle Onstad. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the manager for library operations here at MiraCosta College. And I'm honored that I was asked to moderate this panel. Housekeeping. If you're in the room, please make sure your cell phone is on silent. And if you are live streaming and you have a question, what you want to do is go on Teams and send it to Melanie Haney or Joanne Gonzalez, and we will get those questions fielded. So thank you very much. AI. The first time I really encountered AI was October 2nd of 2018. I was in Tucson celebrating my mother-in-law's 80th birthday, and we were at a hotel. And I saw a conference that was being held at the same time, and it said special guest Sophia the robot. So I crashed the conference cocktail party and said, I want to meet Sophia. And I met Sophia, and I talked to her, and it was very surreal. She's an AI robot. You can follow her on social media. She goes all over the world. And also, by the way, I'd forgotten the date of when I met her, so I asked ChatGPT, and I had to correct it, but it told me when I met her. So that's kind of how that goes. My favorite AI tool is Goblin Tools. Goblin Tools is an AI app that was created by some neurodivergent programmers, and it's aimed at neurodivergent folks, and it's really cool. You can make a to-do list. You can ask it, how do I do laundry? It'll make a list of the steps, and you're like, I need to break these down more. You can ask it to break it down more. And there's other tools on Goblin Tools as well, but it's a really great tool for organizing to-do lists. And so I just wanted to mention that. And ChatGPT, I use it all the time. I make a list of what I have in my refrigerator, it gives me a recipe. I use it to write interview questions. But I edit them. I also asked it, what's the optimal string height for my new bass guitar? So you can ask it just about anything, and I correct it often. I put in my name, and it gave me information on me. Some of it was incorrect, and I said, no, that's not right. And then it dug deeper and found me. So anyway, so I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel for today. I'm going to read you their biographies. First, to the right of me is Susie Boynton. Susie serves as the Executive Administrative Assistant to the Superintendent and Governing Board for San Marcos Unified School District. She earned her bachelor's degree in accounting from Cal State University, San Marcos, where she developed a strong foundation in accounting principles. Susie is passionate about improving workplace efficiency through process enhancements, AI integration, and supporting the growth and development of her colleagues. She had the privilege of creating a professional development track for administrative professionals in her district, an effort that was recognized with the ASAP Impact Award and the Administrative Excellence in Public Service Award in 2024. Susie has also had the opportunity to speak at local and state conferences where she shares her experiences and insights on leveraging AI to enhance workplace operations. Welcome, Susie. Okay, and to the right of Susie is Jennifer Bielman. Jennifer is an administrative coordinator at Riverside City College with a passion for harnessing artificial intelligence to transform workplace efficiency in community colleges. Her journey into AI began at the Community College League of California Conference, where a session on leveraging ChatGPT in professional environments sparked her interest. Since then, Jennifer has become a dedicated advocate for AI-driven innovation, presenting at conferences across California to equip employees with the tools and knowledge needed to thrive in an AI-integrated workplace. She holds a Master's of Business Administration and is currently pursuing a doctorate in organizational change and leadership at California Baptist University. Welcome, Jennifer. And last but not least is my friend Cornell Rustin. Cornell serves as the Information Security and Infrastructure Director here at MiraCosta College, leading efforts to protect our digital infrastructure and ensure operational resilience. With a BS in Information and Computer Science, an MBA, and multiple certifications in security leadership, planning, and control frameworks,
He oversees complex IT security initiatives, and they are very complex. Cornell is dedicated to advancing the college's technological capabilities by developing AI policies and secure AI-driven solutions to enhance efficiency. His work integrates innovation with regulatory compliance, aligning technology with organizational goals. Cornell also contributes to community and professional discussions, promoting responsible cybersecurity and AI governance in higher education. Welcome, Cornell. Okay, so we have a lot of questions to get through. The first thing we're going to talk about is more about context of AI. I asked the panel, how do you see AI currently impacting the operations and functions of community colleges? Who would like to start with that?
I'll start. Well, I think we're going to see a lot of the generative AI, right? Where we're individually going into ChatGPT or applications like that and inputting prompts to help us with our daily work. I think that's kind of the big part of it right now. But AI is kind of already integrated in a lot of our systems. But the hope is that if it's not maybe in your college or whatever college is, that we're going to start seeing, scheduling being a lot easier, writing emails based off, common questions you might get and the answers that you give it. And so AI can realize that, oh, you've answered this a million times. Here, is this the right answer? Is this an email that I can send for you? Yes, please do. Like AI can do that. And I have actually seen that in action at different kind of corporations and places that I've talked to. Right now we have AI in Zoom, the companion, the AI companion, I think it's called. And there it's taking our minutes during our Zooms, and it's giving us a brief outline of what's been discussed, the action items, who said what, things like that. So really it's gonna automate those tasks, and I've already seen that, but I'm hoping to see it a lot more as we move forward. But it also, I don't know, every kind of college is different, but it can be like have predictive analytics, letting us know which students are maybe failing and then giving them possible lessons plans to improve. So it's really going to help us, I feel, do our job better in general, because we're going to start seeing, we're going to be able to use it to first of all, cut down on time on automated tasks that don't matter. They do matter, but automated tasks that, are just kind of generic and something anybody can do, so that we can focus on kind of high level student engagement.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I almost think that once we get comfortable letting go of those nuanced tasks that we're used to just kind of like repetitively doing, I would argue that we get to transform and become strategic thinkers, right? So no longer am I looking at a schedule and wondering, does the time work here or does this work here? No, am I promoting, at least this is how I think of it, am I getting my boss to his goals? Because I serve my boss and a board. Am I helping him see through his goals as his assistant by strategy thinking, right? So now I'm getting rid of these not time savers, the opposite of that.
Right. Time, yes.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
I'm getting rid of those so that I can scale out and now start thinking strategically about value added things that I'm doing in my job, instead of just I'm putting 2 o'clock on the calendar. I'm doing this. I'm doing all these little things. Let the robots do it.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, do it. I want to think, how are we hitting our goals instead?
Right. Because it can't do the creative thinking that you need to employ when you're trying to solve problems, right? But it's a great use for the rote sort of tasks, as you said. So let's talk about classified professionals at community colleges specifically. Cornell, what is the general level of awareness about AI tools? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, I like to kind of what the experts are saying about AI outside, right? That's an important thing to kind of have some sort of a metric to measure where we are, right? So I don't know whether you heard this in, there are 3 acronyms that they use. One's called ANI, the other one is called AGI, The other one is called ASI. Now, what do these things stand for, right? So ANI is what you call the artificial narrow intelligence. So what that means is these learning systems, and I heard many, in the panel earlier too, they talked about algorithmic functions and so forth, right? So they can perform a specific task very well. That's the key thing. They are pretty much programmed, and they cannot go beyond the scope of what they can do, pretty much. So if you think about, for example, like Siri and Alexa and Google Assistants, those are kind of voice recognition and response systems. As well as ChatGPT is obviously it's a language model, right? You can put natural language and they process it and gets the data back. They also recommendation algorithms, like if you go to Netflix or YouTube, what's working behind that is the AI models that they have. And also if you talk about autonomous driving, self-driving cars, that is another area that kind of fits into that model pretty much, right? So they are very, as I said, they are very, very specific for the task that they have to do. Now, when we talk about AGI, that's the artificial general intelligence. So what that is you have come to a point that these systems can independently think. You don't need to train them, and they can perform certain things.
Is that like where ChatGPT has kind of a therapist mode now, where you can put in there, I'm not feeling very well today, and it starts asking you things and comforting you? Is that an example of AGI?
Yeah, ChatGPT 4 is at their infancy stage on AGI. There is also some other things called, I think if I remember right, there are other programs as well that they use, but experts say they're speculating it might take even 10 to 50 years to catch up to that kind of definition of AGI.
I see.
Okay. So the third one is I like, that's called the artificial superintelligence. It's like, okay,
Ooh.
You know everything, right? I'm going to take over, right? That type of a thing. And, this can be really, if you think about it, in science fiction, you can think about, if you've seen HAL 9000,
Yeah.
the Space Odyssey 2001.
That's right.
So that kind of fits that kind of model as well as for example, if you have seen Terminator, Skynet.
Yes.
So it can be you can help the humans, or you can destroy the humans, that type of thing, right? So it's kind of important to understand these kind of levels where we are, and these the ASI is, they don't even know they can even achieve it at this time. Those are the expert. They speculate that, or they have their opinions on that. So yeah, and it's very interesting to kind of understand these levels, so we can actually kind of figure it out. What's happening right now? Where is ChatGPT and so forth? So this also kind of can address the issue of your whether you will be displaced. Right, rules, and so that is another
Yes.
thing we can kind of figure it out. But with that, I'll any other?
Yeah, in fact, we'll get to that when we talk about challenges and concerns, the whole fear of our jobs being replaced. So among the three of you, do you hear other classified professional colleagues talk about that they're aware of these AI tools, but perhaps they're not comfortable with them, or they want more understanding before they dive into that? And have you had conversations with colleagues about that?
Yes, absolutely. I think you're going to have knowledge gaps based off of whether or not and when you embraced AI. I mean, I think back to a year and a half ago when I actually gave my first presentation, and I was actually fearful that I might have executives come to me after and say, stop talking about this. This is too, too progressive and I want you to stop. So just having an understanding that we all have our experiences with AI in different forms and at different times, and that they're all okay. You're going to go through that journey on your own of learning, but it's here. And so it's your turn to take, the initiative to figure out what your relationship is with AI and how you can utilize that in your job and for your future and for your kids' future too, your students here.
And to not be afraid to try something. Right. I think there's a lot of fear around it too. Any comments?
Yeah, I wanted to mention, I think because I kind of call it like we're in the Wild West phase of AI. You know what I mean? I mean, it's been here since the 1950s, but still we're seeing it more like personal computers. We knew about computers, but then all of a sudden we had one in our home, right? So we're starting to see it on our, in person at our desks. And because we don't have a lot of policies in place, there's not a lot of law related to it. And a lot of colleges are not talking about it or just barely talking about it, even though our state chancellor has said this is like one of my 3 goals for this year is to integrate and understand AI for our students, because they're going to come into a world where AI is normal at that point. They're going into an AI infused job market. So it's really our job to make sure they're prepared for that. So I kind of get that kind of being a little afraid of, first, is it going to displace me? And I know my audio sounds weird, but first, is it going to displace me? Or am I, if I'm helping students with it, am I doing a bad thing? Because our college hasn't really set guidelines and parameters. So, and that's okay. Again, we're in that Wild West phase. We're figuring things out. That's why open communication is important, so that we know how can we approach that. That's kind of the scariest part, is because when I'm talking to my colleagues, some of them are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. I'm like, well, I don't care, because what are they going to do? I mean, really, because this is the future. So let them come to me and I'll say, great, then let's start putting a plan together. Let me not be the only one bringing it to the school. Let's start putting a policy together. Please involve me, because everybody needs to have a seat at that table.
Thank you. Well, let's move on to our next category of questions, and that's practical applications of AI and enhancing workflows. And I know you talked about this a little bit in the intro panel, but let's talk about some specific ways AI can streamline the daily tasks of classified professionals, such as in admissions, financial aid, or student services. And I see that in the library, that we have applications for matching students with technology and things like that. So what are some specific ways AI can work for us classified professionals?
I took notes for this one specifically because I wanted to make sure to hit, because this is what I'm excited about, is the integration and the actual streamlining of our processes, which I think is going to take time. Right now, I think most of us are using it, again, with those applications where we're inputting prompts. But again, some AI has already been integrated. We don't even realize how much it's been integrated. But what I like when it comes to Mission, it's going to really automate the application process. It can notify students of any missing documents or deadlines, things like that. You have those chatbots. A lot of us already have chatbots on websites that help students, but then we could have even more integrated chatbots for specific departments. The last panelist talked about PlayLab. I was also part of that beta testing of PlayLab. I've created a chatbot for administrative tasks like processing documents and putting requisitions in, because I have that data. Why not put it into a bot and say, hey, within my not on the download, but in essence, maybe put it as a link in my email, so that way people go, oh wait, so there's and then maybe all admins can do that, right? And then it's like, hey, if you ever want to see, if you're asking who the Dean of Student Services is, or you're asking what do I do when I'm putting this requisition in, try that PlayLab chatbot first. Our travel system can concur. We just put that manual in a whole PlayLab chatbot, and now people can actually ask those questions. Now, of course, there's going to be that human touch or specific, kind of wonky areas that we're not going to be able to address when it comes to chatbot, but it eliminates those basic front level questions. Now, when it comes to financial aid, you kind of think about like it can analyze applications for errors or flag incomplete forms and let the student know. It can recommend scholarships based off the student's profile and their background. I thought that was amazing. Student services, we're talking about like appointment scheduling and matching like counselors and students based off their major or based off their career path. Earlier alert systems, I mentioned flagging students that maybe, failing classes, things like that, creating plans for them. That can all be AI generated, but again, it's going to have that human touch. But the point is, it's kind of it helps eliminate some of that time it takes for that student to get that kind of service.
Interesting. Susie, can you share a couple more of the ideas that you shared in the earlier panel about streamlining daily tasks in your role?
Sure. So I'm trying to think of like a really good example for everyone. I mean, I think we're all utilizing it to create customized emails, that sort of thing. That's like kind of the easiest, quickest way. But like you mentioned earlier, you had a favorite app. I have an app that I use called Gamma. And Gamma helps us create ideas, create slide decks. And when I first got into it, I was so gung-ho, I actually reached out to the creator of Gamma and said, I really want to talk to you. I'm going to this conference and I want to show your app to everybody because I think it's brilliant. So tell me some of the things tell me what's like most important that people need to hear about your app or about this technology. And he said, this is for creating ideas beautifully. And people are more engaged when what they're looking at
looks good.
It looks good. Yeah, exactly. And he's absolutely right. And so what I started to find is that like I don't need to be great at PowerPoint anymore. I don't need to go take classes to become a designer to make beautiful PowerPoints anymore. No, I'm using AI to upskill myself and what I can do faster. So if my executive asks me, hey, here's some content, I need a presentation on it by tomorrow, I don't have to, it's going to look fantastic because I'm utilizing the capabilities of AI instead of having to be, a
Moving
designer.
text boxes around and bullet points and all of that, yeah.
Exactly. Let it do that, and then I can look over the scope. I can look over, does it hit the notes that my boss wants me, to have presented for the group,
Sure,
right? So
yeah.
I'm looking at that rather than trying to nitpick apart PowerPoint,
Yep.
right, and make sure that it looks nice.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on a little bit. Cornell, I want to ask you about data management. So, because you work in ITS and you have a lot of experience in topics such as this, so how can AI tools assist in managing large data sets, student records, campus operations?
Yes. So as I said, in this day and age, I'm sure most of you have heard about data warehouses, so where we can store all the data and so forth. So the first step in AI is actually collecting the right type of data. So the concept of garbage in, garbage out really
Yes.
matters in artificial intelligence, right? That's the key thing. Because if you don't train the models in a certain way, and of course, there will be lots of other questions that we can raise in the sense that biases and so forth. That's another topic.
Right.
But the important first step is to really organize and how do we retrieve this data. That's a key thing right here as well. So once we get that, so we have the baseline set up. Then in terms of really using AI for some of these things, so we can talk about, optical character recognition, right? Basically the OCRs. We can actually scan apps and the AI actually can figure it out what are the missing areas. So for example, if you do an application or, any financial aid form, what those things, they can actually see, oh, by the way, you don't have to go through all the stack of paper. It should come and say, by the way, for this student, these things are missing. We'll try to get those things and have an automated way of really communicating that as well. So one important thing for this is also, as staff, you can have more time to do other things, like have personal contact with the students, for example. That is a very important thing, to have those one-on-one contacts and so forth, right?
Absolutely.
So that is something that you can do. The other area is, I think someone mentioned also predictive analytics, right? Once you have the data, then you can actually see the trends. What kind of trends? For example, hey, is this class, we see a lot of enrollment for this class. How can we really allocate faculty for that, classrooms for that, scheduling? All those things can be, that is a function that I think we can improve with the data that we have collected, right? So, and also you can measure student success metrics as well, and also kind of figure it out, if there are anything that we can help the students in terms of tutoring or counseling, those areas as well, right? And also, one of the things that kind of from an operational side of things, we can also think about the energy use.
Yes.
How much energy is being used, when to turn things on, when to turn it off, that type of a thing. So when you have all this kind of information, it's much easier for us to really kind of use the system to do these kind of tasks.
Sure.
So forth, right? And again, it can produce beautiful reports, for visualization. A picture is worth 1,000 words, right?
Absolutely.
So that's something that you can do. Then last but not least is my area, data security and compliance.
Very important.
So we deal with lots of compliance requirements here, whether you talk about FERPA, GLBA, HIPAA, sieges for the police department, and also we have to comply with California Civil Code. I think it's 1798, and also the Chancellor's Office have a lot of requirements as well for us, right? So to make sure that that we have the proper access controls for some of these things. So AI systems can say, hey, based on a role, can this person access this data? Is it relevant for this person to look at social security numbers? If it's not, if it's need to know, that's great. But if somebody else is looking at that, it can kind of flag and say, hey, this person does not need this access because of the role.
Sure.
That type of a thing. So, and also it also can detect like anomalies, right? One of the things that we are working with our systems right now is called impossible traveler. Now, what does that mean? What it means is, let's say a person logs in here on campus, and if you see a certain login from a different country 20 minutes from now, it's not possible, theoretically.
Yeah.
So these are the things from a security perspective we can flag and say, AI can say, hey, we see these things. Maybe this is a potential attack that someone is trying to log into our systems and take corrective action.
And then there's the fraudulent enrollments.
Oh, yes.
Which
the
is a
fraud
huge issue
major
for all
thing
of our,
as well.
our institutions right now.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's talk about, Jennifer, you mentioned chatbots, I believe. And let's talk a little bit about communication tools. So chatbots and virtual assistants, how can they enhance communications with students, faculty, and staff? And are there risks of over-reliance on those tools?
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it before, those chatbots, Play Lab, you can create GPTs through ChatGPT and other applications, and it's going to kind of, increase that communication amongst each other. It will eliminate some of that human part of it, which again, I think is important, but it kind of allows us to automate those common questions, things like that. I think when it comes to faculty, classified, students working together, I mean, just faculty and classified, it could help with the meeting minutes. Again, I was talking about when you're in meeting minutes, or when it comes to scheduling across faculty, classified, and administrators. It can look at everybody's schedule and give you an estimated date and time that would work for everybody, things like that. I think there is risks of over-reliance. Obviously, again, I mentioned those, it's a little impersonal, and we just got to make sure to have that continued personal touch. There's errors, misinformation, and things like that, because those GPTs and those chatbots are going to do its best to answer a question, but they might not actually know the answer because of based off the data sets. So it's going to say, well, this seems kind of close. You know what I mean? And it's, yeah. And so we have to be careful of that. We're going to have to analyze that data. We're going to check for biases. There's a lot of, going back and looking at the actual data sets to make sure that it's staying up to date. And sometimes, I think it was mentioned before that responses may not fully address students with diverse backgrounds or things like that. So it's all those kind of concepts we have to take into consideration when creating those chatbots, especially customized for a community college.
Well, and I think of students who English is their second language as well, being accessible, and also being accessible to students with disabilities. Susie, what's your take on this, chatbots, et cetera?
Yeah, I see it as an enhancement. You can now have information at your fingertips 24/7. So it eliminates needing to have a person there constantly. If students, need to look something up on your website early in the morning, or if staff needs to do that, they can do so and pull that information. So I don't know if you've been to a website where you're like, wow, I need to go here and find this one thing on this website. Which of the 25 tabs am I going to click and drill down into?
You mean like the DMV website,
yes,
for example?
Exactly. So how I see chatbots kind of improving the customer service experience is that I'm going to ask the question that I would usually go to the website for, right?
Sure.
And I'm going to go, hey, I need to know, when does fall semester start? And so instead of trying to log through and get admissions and the dates for fall
calendars,
the chatbot is just going to go collect all that information for that person. And so that's a very quick answer to something that they just wanted to see, that they just needed, information for immediately.
Sure.
And then there's the option to switch. If you hit roadblocks, I would see like a benefit to saying, okay, now let's chat with a live person, right? You've hit so many roadblocks. We're going to move you over to a live person. And I think we all have kind of some experience with that already.
Yeah, I always have the frustrating person, representative,
Yes,
please. I think we've all experienced that as well.
Yes. So anyways, I see it as an enhancement to the customer service experience in getting people information quicker so they have access to their own time back.
Sure, and I think it takes time to train these bots to find the correct information. Because even here at MiraCosta, we have our bot on the front page, and I try it out occasionally just to see what it says about the library, and it's getting better, for sure.
Yeah, and last night, I was actually, it's called the Ask Spartan.
Ask Spartan, right.
Yeah, that's what it is. So I asked certain questions. I said, I really want to know what is what's the, do you have a schedule for summer 2025? Okay, but
yet.
it came and told, not yet. Yeah, it came and said, well, sorry, we don't, but we do have these things for spring 2025 and the previous catalogs for 2024, 24, which is, it's pretty great to, otherwise, a student may have to call and, get this regular, routine information, right?
Sure.
So that is something that I see in chatbots that, you can improve to get the routine information, where we as staff can actually help the student in other complex areas, right? So that is something that I'm hoping that we can make use of as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's move on to our challenges and concerns questions. So I'm sure that classified professionals in particular have concerns about our jobs going to be displaced, particularly if we work in an area that works with data. Are we going to lose out to too much AI in our jobs? What are the concerns that you all are hearing from colleagues about job displacement or role changes due to AI, and how can we address those concerns?
When it comes to like job displacement, we, obviously like administrative type tasks, things like that, it feels a little bit like, okay, but will people need me? And we know that's, of course they will. Again, it just changes the type of work we're doing, and it's eliminating some of that repetitive, tasks that we have to do. I think it'll actually kind of get us more involved, to be honest. But also, it's the scariness of like a role change. Kind of expecting us to learn AI and like have more technical skills. So there's always that challenge because some of us are more techie and some of us aren't, right? But the hope is that AI is obviously kind of leveling the playing field a little bit because it is very user friendly in a lot of ways. I think also we have to be careful of us not being classified, especially not being part of like the AI policy discussion and implementation. I think it's very important because we are the operations of the college. So not being a part of that is very scary because I think I have seen that in my college where a classified are not part of discussions and then that implementation fails because we really need to be, we know how to do the things, you know what I mean? And then also, not being provided that training and things like that. That's, like I would hope that like, this is amazing that your college is doing it. My college has not done anything like this, but to actually encourage training, maybe actually buying generative AI applications that everybody can use, providing workshops, things like that. So I think, again, when it comes to like addressing concerns, make sure to keep open communication, transparent communication, the data set, like what's actually going in and what's coming out. Make sure there's professional development opportunities and, start signing up for those pilot programs. I think pilot programs are an amazing way to start because we don't know how it's going to work and if it's going to be efficient. So let's make sure we have a few people trying it out first and kind of getting, kind of fixing those errors and making sure it's more efficient.
And I think we have to emphasize our touch in working with students. And I think that that's something that we should continue to highlight as classified professionals, that nothing replaces that one-on-one conversation with a student or comforting them or connecting them with a resource or the warm handoff, as we like to do here. We have the Caring Campus initiative where we work to make sure students are getting the support they need. And so maybe we emphasize all of that and our value to that. Susie, what are you hearing from other classified colleagues?
Well, I was just gonna, if you don't mind,
Sure.
I was gonna kind of add to what you said. I feel like it's really a shift in that AI is magnifying the skill set that we already have. It's us times information, right? Mm-hmm. It's not us versus AI. Our skills are amplified when we utilize AI.
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think that's just sort of been a perspective that I've kind of always held. But I do value and see that there's other perspectives where people feel like, that it's going to replace you. And I don't feel like that's the case. And where were we?
Number 6.
Number 6,
Yeah.
thank you. What was I going to say about, you said something that sparked something, but I just turned left.
That's okay. Well,
Squirrel.
Well,
I do that consistency. If you were here before, you saw that. And
well, those of us who've been around for a while, computers, like, in general in the workplace and word processing and all of that, and even the copy machine, there's just all this technology that comes forth that gets everybody worried about their jobs. And but I like what you're saying. We just need to be part of the conversation, emphasize our human touch with the students, and just recognize this as a tool. Library services has changed dramatically over the last couple decades, and even here at MiraCosta, you know, we're utilizing smart lockers and to deliver things to students, and we're embracing the technology, but we still have that one-on-one with the students that really means a lot to us as classified professionals, and we hope it means a lot to the students that we take the time to get to know their name and a little bit about them and help them while the technology is doing the work.
Right. And I was going to say, I'll turn back right and end up where I was. The fact that you're just having this conversation alone today and that you have classified voice at the table is huge.
Yes.
I think it's so important, and I'm being a community member here in North County and a student of this college, and I just feel so proud to see that there's representation from the classified staff on a day like today, because it's imperative. You cannot operate a school where students learn without somebody paying teachers, paying your staff, cleaning the restrooms,
Ordering the books.
Thank
Yeah,
you. Right?
Sure. Absolutely.
So, anyways.
Yeah. Let's talk about ethics and bias, and maybe Cornell, you might have some ideas about this. But how can classified professionals ensure that AI tools are used ethically and avoid perpetuating bias in decision making or student interactions? Because we at MiraCosta, of course, we spend a lot of time and effort trying to create a racially just campus. We value diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility very heavily. And so how do we keep that philosophy going, but being mindful of the ethics in using these tools?
Yes. So first, I think the basic thing is to understand bias in artificial intelligence. You know, that's an important thing. What types of biases are there? So there can be obviously, you know, as I mentioned earlier, you know, there can be data bias. The data may not reflect they may not be the correct information that is being fed into these learning systems. So the other one is the algorithmic bias. You know, I may put if I'm the designer of the algorithm, if I'm the technical person that I'm writing this algorithm, so I may unconsciously or consciously, those biases may be implemented in that learning model,
Right.
for example, right? Then of course, you know, then there is the user bias. You know, sometimes it can be cultural too.
Yes.
Because you do not know what based on the culture, it may have different meanings, connotations, and so forth for different things. So when you put all these things together, it's kind of important to understand what biases can be implemented in those learning models. The key thing is, again, as I think Susie and Jennifer mentioned this too, the inclusiveness, right? When you design a system, we need to make sure that the constituents are involved in that, making decisions, the right decision. Is this the right thing for us? Testing it. Are these the results that we are getting from this system? Does it really match our values, and is it accurate? So these are some of the things we really need to kind of think about as well. So, you know, and you also mentioned about literacy training and workshops and so forth. All these things can kind of help in that area. Yeah, again, you know, keeping an oversight on the mechanisms, you know,
Right.
after you implement it, making sure that there is oversight on these systems as well. And, transparency is also very important, right? You know, we want to
Absolutely.
make sure that this is what it is. And I think that will probably give us at least a reasonable model in terms of ethics and so forth.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, thank you. Feel free to jump in, although I did want to move to what skills or training might be necessary for classified professionals to effectively work alongside AI tools. But feel free to go back to any other comment you had about the last question.
Yes. Yeah. I just wanted to say, like, promoting a culture of having a feedback loop, right?
Yes.
You need a feedback loop so that when employees or students see that there's inherent bias in your chatbots and whatever you're using, whatever tools that you're using, they have a place to go to report those biases so that you can retrain whatever tool that you've created and or are using to know that that's there, right?
Sure.
And then and relaying that to your staff that if you notice, let's say in HR, if you notice certain applications seem to be coming through more than others, you feel safe telling whomever if it's the data department, that we need to recalibrate these data sets
Absolutely.
to be more reflective of our student population and our employee population.
Well, so that kind of segues into what skills or training might be necessary for classified professionals. So the ability to question what the AI models are doing and feeling safe as an employee to do that, I think that's that's a training piece to just reassure our colleagues that it's okay to speak out if you think that there's something wrong. But what other sorts of skills or training might be necessary for classified professionals to effectively work alongside these AI tools?
And just AI governance committees, okay? I think that's important. We got to start integrating AI committees in our participatory governance systems. So when it comes to like skill development, first of all, just understanding the basics of AI. Sometimes we got to start from the ground up, right? Making sure we're having workshops and conferences and things like that, and making sure that that we understand the process and how it works and how AI is actually how it can be integrated in our systems, how data sets work, things like that. So just AI literacy in general, right? And then starting, the automation part of it and things like Microsoft Copilot that integrates into Microsoft applications like Word and Outlook and showing us how we can utilize that. And then obviously if colleges want to start, purchasing corporate level generative AI like ChatGPT, so we can start implementing that in our work, because like you mentioned, it's really important that the variety of ways you can use generative AI. I mean, it could be slides, it could be summarizing one of our many plans, because I think, community colleges love their 30, 50 page plans, summarizing, helping in that way. I mean, it could be as simple as creating a presentation like you mentioned, or I'm just trying to think of all the ways that I've used it. Asking it like, hey, this is a new position. What would the budget look like for this kind of position? Or, I mean, it's unlimited what it could be used for. And sometimes it's really helpful in certain areas, and sometimes you kind of got to work that prompt to get what you need. I think it's important that we start kind of creating maybe places where you can actually work with AI and then get questions answered there as well. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's all I got.
Okay.
So I think you mentioned about training. I just want to let you know, for MiraCosta staff, we do have a sessions going on called AI Discovery Labs, hosted by Jim Julius and Professor Rick White.
Right.
Yeah, so basically, those are kind of important resources for us as well, for us here at MiraCosta as well. One of the other things I want to mention as well, there is an app for accessibility called IRA. So this is an AI app that is being designed by our at MiraCosta and integrated into an AI system, where the visually impaired can actually, on their phone, they can press a button and get directions from an interpreter how to. So that's an impressive thing that I saw recently as well.
Yeah. Accessibility, I think, is one of the largest issues around AI, because of being able to provide these tools for folks who may be visually impaired, hearing impaired. Well, and impaired is not the right word to use. I apologize for that. But just having tools that everyone can access, really. All right, well, let's move on to opportunities for growth. I'm going to pick on Cornell again. How can classified professionals use AI to provide more personalized services and support for students, particularly in advising or career services? And I think a lot of it has to do with data analysis, right? Because then it helps you pull out and create a caseload.
Yes. So again, once you have the data, it's really using that data in those AI systems, right? If you think about it now, if you have the data in terms of students, let's take academic advising, right? That's an area that we can do. So essentially, you can think about personalized degree planning. Hey, we have all these things, this is what you like to do, you have other data points and so forth. And then that also will kick in with progress tracking of the student, right? And then also the AI systems can also do resource matching for these things. So all these functions can be integrated into AI systems. And I heard someone said last time, she wanted to take a nap. So just imagine, you can go and take a nap.
Yeah.
But also, I think that's important thing is really, I think, to have that interaction with the student with our values, right, Michelle, that
Right.
you mentioned. We always be based on their skill sets and so forth. And now we can even have mock interviews using AI systems, right?
Oh, yes.
So this has advanced over my time, right? So we can practice and go through different scenarios and improve, give these resources to students to really go and practice and go from there. The other thing is, what I was thinking was. It's also data-driven decision making for advisors. We talked about the trending and so forth.
Right.
And I did talk about, counseling and tutoring as well. That's something that we can implement in these areas as well, Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely. We do a lot of data analysis about our technology loans to students to make sure we're hitting the disproportionately impacted students, and I think part of that in RPI is probably has some AI help to pull out that data. And case management, getting students through the programs they want to get through most efficiently, and not advising them to take classes that they don't really need, and just making sure retention is a huge issue in our institutions, is making sure we keep the students here and keep them on track and get them the help and resources they need.
I did just want to add, just for the mock interviewing, make sure you're uploading the resume and the job description, because that's going to customize it. And that has been a great experience for a lot of people that have utilized it and then actually gone on a job interview. And they said it was like 3 or 4 were very similar based off what ChatGPT or whatever program they use came up with. So
Interesting.
Just kind of a clarification.
Yeah, interesting.
And just for MiraCosta, if you go to the career services, I believe there's a web page.
Ingrid.
Right, and they have instructions how to use that as well.
That's
Thank you.
great. Yeah. Go ahead, Susie.
So I was just going to say also, this is the personalized support can be really imperative for our at-risk students too. So if you're noticing certain trends, you can utilize AI to notice certain trends in their patterns of attendance, right?
Sure.
And create interventions to get them back on track.
Absolutely.
So that's another benefit to staff and to students.
Yeah, and I
with
think our
AI.
care team does an excellent job with connecting students with resources who are having issues, whether it's housing insecurity or food insecurity or mental health services, and I think that's really important. And having the data gives us a picture that we can go and reach out to the student and spend more time with them rather than filling out forms and looking things up. If you have the data right in front of you, it's easier to see more students or spend more time with individual students.
And one more thing I just remembered
Sure.
as well. So just imagine a system where it says, give me all the students at Pell Grants for last semester, and what is the average grant that the students got. Just imagine, otherwise you had to go through spreadsheets, go through these things and so forth.
Right, sort things. And,
Sort
yeah.
things out. So these are amazing, capabilities that are out there that we can envision, that we can use.
Sure. Well, let's move on to talking about professional development. Are there opportunities for classified professionals to lead AI initiatives on campus? And how could they advocate for their roles in shaping AI policies? Because we have a wide variety of classified professionals in all kinds of positions. And how can we advocate for our roles, no matter what our roles are, in shaping AI policy in our institution?
I will say for the opportunities, I mean, I in my bio it was mentioned that I was inspired by a conference, and it was the first time I really saw someone use generative AI and how like ideas on how to prompt and things like that. It was actually an HR representative, and I thought it was so interesting, and that kind of just propelled me into what I created for my PowerPoint, and then I presented it at my school, and then I just kind of became the AI person in my school because I'm like, again, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? I mean, tell me to stop. They haven't yet, so I'm just going to continue. So one thing is that, like, if you're really interested, start just researching, start looking into it. Sign up for free training. I mean, there's free training everywhere, YouTube, whatever it may be.
There's a lot.
Start educating yourself first, because if something interests you, do it. And even if it doesn't, it's going to be important that you know the basics. So at least do that. Become an AI mentor. That's kind of what I've done. There's a few people that are just very nervous about it, and I actually meet with them separately to go over things to make them feel more comfortable. Some people just want to feel more comfortable in actually using AI, especially generative AI. I am actually creating an AI bingo for April, or March or April, I haven't decided yet. But an AI bingo is a great way to kind of be interactive with the campus, and it's like very basic things to get people to use AI and become familiar with it, and have a little prize at the end depending on how many like little, things you get, like a blackout, you get all 9 or something like that. So think of fun ways to incorporate it in your college so that it feels more like, fun, honestly, we're at work, but still sometimes we can have fun. So make it feel like more of oh, this is kind of a fun thing. This is not scary, because I do believe it's very much a tool. It's very much a starting point. It is not a scary thing. I just think with any new innovation, there's always those concerns, right? You could launch an AI learning group among classified, where you guys get together, and I think I had mentioned that before. Make sure to volunteer for any pilot programs, great opportunities. The committees, make sure to be a part of the committees. And when it comes to the advocating, again, you just need to make sure that you have a seat at the table. It's vital, because we know that we have invaluable resources, we have invaluable ideas, and that is the only way we're going to make sure that our part of the college operations is incorporated into our policies or into the data sets or whatever it may be, and hopefully more representative of students, because let's be honest, a lot of us are also the students of the college. We either we're students or even currently students at other things, so we're students as well. So we kind of know what some of the students want, and we talk to them all the time. So again, push to have that seat at that table.
Yeah, and I feel, again, I always say I feel lucky to work at MiraCosta, but look at how, our classified senate worked with faculty, and we have this day where we all get a chance to explore these ideas. And so I commend the classified senate, too, for advocating for us as classified professionals. And I think, it just shows that we are valued here and we have a place at the table. So what else might you want to add, Hornell or Susie? About advocating for your role in shaping AI policies, because you've done that in your district.
Yes, yeah. Don't be afraid to ask. I'll just say, when I decided that I'm visualizing here, I'm trying to go back in time. I equally had a similar experience where I went to a conference and I saw the power of AI in an innovation lab. And I knew that I had to go back and create something for the executive assistants and administrative assistants within my district, primarily because we didn't have any sort of training. a formalized training. And they individually would have to go advocate for that training. And so I got back feeling, one, very privileged that I got to go, but two, like, wow, this is such a great tool for all of us to be able to utilize. And there's an equity issue here, right? And so I love that you have an advocate for with the classified senate that could advocate for you, but don't forget to continue to do that if you're not feeling like maybe your department has the tools that they need, right?
Sure.
And just continue the conversation. So I came back from that conference and I said, we have to upskill our staff, and that we can use AI to do that. We're constantly being asked to do more with less resources.
True.
And the upskilling is a great solution for that. So, and they said, good stuff. Go ahead and do it.
That's great.
And that's what landed me here. But nonetheless, take every opportunity you have to join a work group. Don't be afraid to ask for that training. Maybe it's outside of MiraCosta. Ask for it. What's the worst they can say? No?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. It was a no if you didn't ask to.
That's true. Cornell, did you have something to add too?
Yeah, so one of the things is to echo what Susan said, is that, I know there are lots of free tools that are there, but I think you mentioned formalized training. It's one of the success factors in the research that they are saying. Now, within MiraCosta, we have the Technology Advisory Committee.
Yes.
We have brought AI a few times in that, and
We
it's
have.
moving forward. So that is something, and don't be afraid to bring these things up into the Technology Advisory Committee, whether it's the Classified Senate folks or whoever.
Yeah.
So make sure that you are represented and you're heard. That's the key thing.
Yeah, and Cornell and I sit on that committee, and I encourage other classified professionals, if you have a chance to join the committee, you really learn a lot. I mean, I learned a lot about AI from a presentation you did there, Cornell, and we have a lot of great discussions. Jennifer, did you have something to add to that?
I wanted to mention, I agree with Susie that you push to do even formal training. I do it, and I probably get maybe a yes 40% of the time. But I always email, I'm like, totally okay if you say no. I know it's $2,500, but it doesn't hurt to ask, right? And they're like, yeah, no, nice try. But then the other things that are kind of cheaper, I usually get. But yes, please always ask, because again, I always do like a little paragraph of, remember, AI is the future. It's important. I'm a leader in it. See, I should go. Things like that. Just try it. Just try it, because you never know, your boss, however it works here, if he approves it. I mean, and it really does help doing those. And then some things I've paid for myself, because this to me is the future, and I want to be a part of that.
Sure.
So, and that's completely up to you. That's a personal decision, but I want you to know that there's a lot out there when it comes to AI and conferences and training.
Well, we have another 3 or 4 questions. I want to be mindful of time. And are we getting questions on Teams? Okay, so I just wanted to see how many questions we're getting. So let's try and finish up a couple other planned questions here, and then we'll hear what someone out in the field wanted to know. So the future, we talked about this a little bit, I believe, in the first session, about decision-making and governance in our institutions, and what role can classified professionals play in the decision-making process around AI implementation and governance and related to governance.
I feel like I kind of covered a little bit, but just mentioning that, again, push for regular audits. I think that kind of gets forgotten a little bit, and we're kind of used to that stuff. So make sure to push for audits when it comes to data sets and any kind of integration, and when it comes to, DEIA efforts within, AI and implementing it on the campus. Make sure to report any kind of discrepancies, gaps that you see, challenges, because if you're seeing it, your students are seeing it. So I just kind of wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. I think I'd like to skip to our closing reflections, because there's a couple questions here that are really are topics that we really should take a quick dive into before we get to our questions from the audience. So balancing innovation and tradition. How do we strike a balance between leveraging AI for innovation while preserving the personal, human-centered ethics of community colleges? We kind of talked about still wanting to have that human touch. But how do we strike that balance without going too far in the direction where we're depersonalizing? This is for anyone.
So I guess it's your choice and what you do with the extra time, and if your institution really supports you and what you do with that free time. You know, if you're going to utilize AI and streamline what you're doing, which gives you more time to do other things, are you just filling it with nuanced tasks, doing something else, right? Or are you doing something that like is human centered and is adding value to the relationships that you have at work? So I'm speaking from a classified perspective. And that's, you know, like what do I value at work? We're here more than we are at home with our families. So can we take that time that we got back? If you see my presentation later, you'll see that knowledge workers that utilize AI save 7.75 hours a week. So what could we do with an extra day? Could we improve company culture? Could we like connect the way that we couldn't? Because over time, our desks have become bogged with stacks. I mean, that's just how it's kind of been, and it doesn't seem like we're trending that way. Like those stacks are going away to let us, in my opinion, free up time to kind of make those human connections.
Well, and there's a wellness piece too, as
Absolutely.
employees, you know, is becoming more efficient and having time to even just wellness while you're working, you know. Any other comments?
Yeah, I will kind of just add on that, you know, again, how I see AI is kind of reducing that administrative burden in a lot of ways, and it really opens us up to more of that student engagement, that more involvement, right? Maybe even, well, not the right word, but advancing ourselves, you know, making sure that we're growing along with our students. So that's how I see it. It's a time saver. And also it kind of levels the playing field when it comes to creativity. Not all of us are creative, and now we can actually do things that are a little more on the creative side. Not a lot of us are technical or maybe expert in Excel, and now it's something we can actually do because ChatGPT offers you great help when it comes to Excel. I know it's not my number one, but, you know, I'm okay with it. I dabble. But it has helped me kind of look better than what I actually am. But, you know, but then I'm learning at the same time. Think about it. You're reading a book, you're learning, right? I'm reading what ChatGPT gave me. Oh, I learned something today. You know, so just think of it that way. It's a learning tool, and it's taking away certain parts of our jobs that allow us to get more involved, to allow us to spend more time with students.
Cornell?
Yeah, so I think also it's important to keep the focus on student success and equity as well.
Yes.
So that is important because, you know, we can have programs for personalized learning and, you know, equitable AI use and so forth. And also, as I think Susan, you mentioned that we are here to do not use AI to replace human interaction.
Right.
That is something I think from a technology perspective, I understand that because we can get carried away. Oh yes, we can do this, but at the same time, focus on your human interaction, you know, with the others. It's a very important thing.
Absolutely. Well, our final question, and then we'll get to questions from the audience, is let's talk about the future. So we are, of course, future-oriented here at MiraCosta. A lot of us have done the futures training and the signal spotters. And so we've been asked at some point, you know, what is MiraCosta going to look like at our 100th birthday? What is it going to look like, you know, in 30 years? So let's talk about ways we envision AI transforming our environment in community colleges over the next 5 to 10 years, and how do classified professionals fit into that picture?
It's kind of hard to say. This question I struggled with because I think the way we're going to operate is going to be completely different in 5 or 10 years. It's all the things I mentioned, right? Automation, more student engagement when it comes to the things that matter compared to just the basic questions that anybody can answer, right? That kind of 24-hour support, right? That chatbots provide, which is great. So the more we advance those, even better for students that maybe don't have transportation and can't come to the college and talk to someone, or calling on a phone and not getting an answer they want. So there's a lot of things that with the integration that it's going to improve the way we communicate with our students. But I see it completely changing the way we function, because it's going to take all those little small tasks again and create it and make them something that we do on the background that's easy. And we're going to be so much more involved. And I think part of more conversations where I know at my college we struggle to participate because we just have to be at the desk. We don't want to miss a student's inquiry. We don't want to miss something like then we're like, oh, we're going to sign up for all this training and all this Zoom training. Yeah, I don't go to those. I never end up going to those. Think of all that time saved and how much more involved you could be with the college. I mean, you almost, you feel like it's like you're part of the people again, because I feel like sometimes we're a little bit in the background, kind of keeping the college going, and everybody else gets to experience all that training and that nuanced, talk, even just discussions, having a discussion, right? When we used to have a water cooler, all those things kind of come back, and I think the way we do our jobs is going to be different. It's going to be high level. It's going to be strategic and things like that. So I struggled with what it would look like. I mean, there's a lot of different things that I think will change, but I think it's going to be for the better because, again, that example of the calculator. Oh, no, that's the end of math teachers, and that's the end of math, and that's not what happened, right? And that happens with any innovation. And I think we'll be a lot more comfortable, and it'll be a part of our daily lives.
Sure. Yeah. Susie.
Yeah, I was going to say we need to reflect on just what's happened in the last year. If like trying to look out 5 to 10 years, I struggled also because I was like, it from being scared to even like talk about it maybe like 2 years ago to where we are now, where most of us are embracing it or at least have like a general, we're easing, we're getting more comfortable with it.
Right.
Right. But I just think being fluid and being open-minded about the various stages that we're going to go through as it changes and evolves, right? That's going to be what helps us change and evolve in our roles too, as the technology gets better, as the institution aligns with what they want their focus to be with AI. I think that being able to be adaptable and flexible as it changes will help us in the next 5 to 10 years. But what it'll actually look like is so hard to say because of how much it's transformed just in the last year and a half, I'd say.
Yeah, we'll look at, the evolution of these computers that we carry around with us all day, how quickly that came upon us.
Yeah, because we were never going to have a calculator in the back of our pocket every day, right?
That's right, that's right. And we don't have the computer that fills up this whole stage, with 16 megabytes of memory. Yeah. Cornell, do you have any final thoughts about the future of AI? And then we'll go to our audience questions.
So I think in conclusion, I think we have a role to play as agents to adopt and to help a community of students. I think that is the key thing, and to understand how we can help the students, keeping the student in mind, right? That's our goal. And how a technology like AI can integrate into our workflows and see what we can do to really get that extra time so that we have those human interactions. Yeah, I think that's my theme pretty much.
I think students first, which is how we all operate here anyway. But keeping that, looking at that lens of what's best for our students. Joanne, what kind of question do we have from online folks?
So I had one comment, and then she had a question too. So she said,
"Can you say it on the microphone, please?"
Yep, there you go, microphone.
Hello, it's Friday.
Yes.
Okay, so this is from Eiley Lopez. She is our scheduler. She uses a lot of the technology.
Yes.
We can't live without her. Shout out, Eiley.
Yes, Eiley.
So she said, I think a comment needs to be made that there are a lot of it could ideas being thrown out. Beyond individual personal use, our college systems are not prepared, and our tech staff do not have capacity to implement and support our staff in executing these ideas. These ideas should encourage additional investment in utilizing these technologies. And then she said, also, please ask Cornell, can you speak to what student data can and can't be entered into AI chats today when assisting with daily work? I hope he reminds everyone not to go back to their desk and enter student PII into the chats.
Good comment. Cornell?
Very good comment. When it comes to data security and protection, because FERPA has firm it's very strict, and we need to follow FERPA no matter what. So my thing is, I'm envisioning, okay? I'm envisioning a system that if you can classify data as sensitive, before it goes into a system, can it detect and redact, if we can, that information? Now that's again, it's up to be seen. I don't think we have the technology yet. As a matter of fact, I did that, I think it was this week. I asked Microsoft Copilot, what if I provide you with sensitive information? Would you really detect and send it back to me saying that this is sensitive information, for example, like a social security number, grade, whatever, right? So there are systems that I have worked in before, at least, for the payment card industry, for credit cards. It detects certain numbers. There is some AI in that, because before it gets sent out to other areas, it detects that and says, hey, this is a record that has sensitive information, and it can stop it. But we are at the very infancy of all these new technologies that we are talking about. That's why we'd love to see, as I said in my earlier comment, when you talk about narrow intelligence. So we are still working with the boundaries of what we can do and what we cannot do right now.
Thank you.
What did Microsoft Copilot say when you asked that question?
It told me to go and take a look at their privacy terms. Gave me the link.
And then it suggested a movie on Netflix for the night. Do we have any questions from the audience here? Can somebody walk around with the mic? Okay.
Yeah, we have about 70 viewers online that need to hear.
Oh yeah, and we have about 4 minutes before lunch, so we should be okay here and getting through the audience questions.
I feel like Phil Donahue.
Yes, you are.
Old enough to
Yes.
remember.
Yes.
Mine's kind of a two-parter, but if you could only do one, out of fairness, I totally understand. Somebody mentioned, I think both of you might have mentioned calendars or calendaring, and I'm really curious, especially, I think you mentioned being able to calendar across the board, and I do a lot of calendaring. So what is it that you use for that? Was there a certain program or?
So it's not something I've used yet because nothing's been integrated in our systems.
Oh, okay.
It's just things that I've researched. So nothing I've actually used yet. Have you been able?
Yeah, there's a couple platforms. There's Clockwise is a big one that I saw at the Innovation Hub at my conference. And then I actually got to know Hefa from EA Buddy, which that's actually turned into a different name now, and I don't know the name of that. But what I found helpful and useful in my role is that, and as I mentioned before, instead of me being the robot that goes and looks for all these times, what those platforms will do is you can tell it a prompt. I need a meeting time for 30 minutes. And if you have all the executives listed for these 2 or 3 executives, and find me a date before, the end of the month, right? It will go scan all of that. So you're not using your eyeballs to find it and your precious time to find those things anymore, or sending out doodle polls or whatever. It's gonna go grab all that information and it'll plop it right on a clipboard so you can copy paste it and not type it out.
That's great.
It looks at the calendar. It goes through.
So it goes through your Outlook.
It'll go through. You sync it with that, and it'll go through the calendar, look for those, grab those times, bring it back, and then you need the human in the loop, right? I need to go look at it and say, oh, that's a vacation day, that's a holiday, right? So you have to have the human in the loop because it'll bring you back a bunch of times for that holiday, right? Unless you have it marked off on the calendar somehow. But then it'll add it to the clipboard and you copy paste. I'm not spending my time writing that out for, 10 executives.
We'd probably have to talk to ITS about integrating that, because it has to allow Outlook to be looked at. So yeah.
Microsoft and Outlook.
Yeah.
And then the other quick question.
Sure.
You mentioned customizing emails. I don't.
Well, I mean, really, it comes down to one, Copilot can do that if it's integrated into your systems, or the other one is customizing. I'm saying literally just start it in the application, or copying and pasting as long as it's not sensitive information, and suggesting a reply into like a generative AI. So that's how I've used it. We also don't have Copilot integrated yet. I think I've heard yes, maybe no here, but I know that also works there. So I'm a little behind because nothing has been integrated, and I can't really buy it by myself. So yeah, I'm just researching at this point.
I think we
just
have time
just
for
a heads up. As a part of our district license, we do have Copilot.
Yes.
So just want to let you know.
So one last question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Right here. Is it on? Okay. So I think the point that Eileen made in the question through Joanne is really important about capacity, because what I was also hearing, and I heard a few of you mention, is like you have to work at it until you get it to do what it is that you want it to do.
Yes.
And so I'm curious how you've balanced that, because just because you want to learn this new tool that can effectively change time, save you time, the amount of time that I'm assuming you've also had to dedicate to figure all that out while you still need to get everything else done, I think that's a huge challenge. And I think the point is well taken that there is a lot of like, well, this could do that and this could do this. And believe me, I use it in my personal life because I know how to use it effectively for the things I need it to do. But the amount of time that you would need to dedicate to make your work more simple, how do you balance that with getting everything else you still need to get done?
Well, I can tell you that so maybe in the beginning it takes a little time, but as you learn how to prompt correctly, it takes no time at all. So it really it's in the beginning. Just like when you learn anything, you're a little slower, and then you becoming a lot faster at it because you've done it so many times.
Sure. Quick answer, and then we will conclude, or? Okay. Well, I want to thank Cornell, Jennifer, and Susie for meeting with us today and answering all these fantastic questions. And I appreciate everyone in attendance. And I'm just again so grateful that we were able to have this time together. So thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch and the afternoon sessions.